Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm coming back with my Christianity, Anglican, or Forterian ways. It's Proclamation news and Gatherence. With the prodigious, the prominent Professor Johnson coming here, flux with a flow and flux with a show. Just got a short little story to read before we start, ladies and gents. The Nations, Day 4, Genesis 11.9b. The Lord confused the language. Lord scattered them all over the face of the whole earth. This event is rooted in the building of a tower at the time when the Bible tells us everyone spoke the same language. Wouldn't it be great if everyone spoke the same language today? Alexander the Great tried to get everyone to speak Greek, resulting in the New Testament being written in Greek, but ultimately he failed. The British Empire, he made English the international language that it is today, but still everyone doesn't speak it. It's interesting because it's considered a single language was God's primary plan and would have rendered the miracle on the day of the Pentecost in Acts 2 unnecessary. It all began in Babel, which can be equated with Babylon in southern Mesopotamia or present-day Iraq. God took decisive action. When the people were building a tower to reach up into the heaven, it confused their language, which resulted in them scattering to form nations as they gathered in various language groups. This must have been traumatic for everyone after their failed building project. Keeping us straight and narrow can be hard, but too many times we make such an effort to follow our own meanderings before realizing that God knew best after all. Are you tiring yourself out trying to fulfill your own plans? Stop now and try God's plan. Proclamation news and Gatherence. Always start with my Christianity, Anglican ways. We're going to get into the UK road incidents. So think safety, think first. Do not enter your vehicle under sleep deprivation, under the influence of alcoholism or narcotics. Make sure you and passengers have seatbelts adjacent to the car seat, and babies have baby seat and car seat car seat belt adjacent to the car seat. Check in, make sure you got MOT, tax, and insured. And some of you youngsters, driving license, even adults as well, but a bit stupid, really, to be fair. Check in engine oil, water cooler tank, make sure the top does maximum level. Check your MOT, make sure it's updated. Check your PSI in your tyres, make sure you've got plenty of sufficient air in your tyres, and making sure your tyres are not bowled. Check for further road instruction, police instructions. Workers on the roads, give way and slow down for workers. Check your centre mirror, wing mirror before turning, acting in safe, sufficient direction choice, making sure motorcycles or pedestrians are not crossing the road, or cars or motorcycles not overtaking. Before we head into UK roads, here we go. Clacton-on-Sea, West Avenue, road closed, emergency repairs due to emergency sinkholes repairs on West Avenue, one-way street from Station Road to Jackson Road. This was first reported on the 13th, quarter past 3 p.m. in Colchester. Slow traffic in construction area at High Garrett A131, both ways at the Hare and Hounds pub in the construction. Temporary traffic lights reported on the 14th at 20 to 11. M25, A12, emergency repairs lane closed on exit ramp, traffic open well. Due to emergency water and mains repair on A12 northbound, M25, junction 28, Brentwood Brook Street roundabout, traffic is open well. Lane 1 of 2 is closed on the slip road to the roundabout. It's reported at 5:32 a.m. Central London, queue and traffic on A4. Queue and traffic on A4 West Cromwell Road into town at A32220 Warwick Road. It's reported at 12:15 on the 14th October. West London, Wembley, M25 lane closed, long delays, stalled, queuing traffic for 4 miles due to stalled van on M25 clockwise after junction 14, A3113, Airport Way, Heathrow lanes 4, 5 and 6 of 6 are closed. Travel time is 30 minutes. This is reported on the 14th October at 10 a.m. You can look near Luton on the way to Luton. A4147, queuing traffic construction here. Queuing traffic on A4147, Maylands Avenue, southbound at A414, St Albans Road, in the construction temporary traffic lights. This is reported the 14th of October, 10:10. We're going to look at Kings Lynn. Going to spread it out a little bit today, hoping to bring in more listeners. B1145, road closed, traffic open, accident investigation work on the B1145 both ways from Gayton Thorpe turn off due to drunken drove. Traffic is code mile since 9 between Rotherham and Gayton. It's reported at 7:15 a.m. today. One more incident on giving Birmingham, north west of England. Lee Green Lane accident traffic code and well report of accident on Lee Green Lane at Hounsfield Lane. Traffic is coping well. It's reported at 11 a.m. today. We're going to have a short break, not long, because I've got to just share these incidents on my Twitter page. Thank you all for coming through. Really appreciate the support.
The 12th of October, the government's early response to coronavirus has been described as one of the UK's worst public health failures in a report by MPs.
The study by 2 Commons committees found that both ministers and scientists waited too long to bring in lockdowns, which cost many lives. But they did praise the speed of the vaccine rollout. Our health correspondent Jim Reid has more.
We are still living through, says this report, the biggest health crisis of the last 100 years. Millions have been infected, many thousands of lives have been lost to COVID.
When we brought back people from Wuhan in January.
For a year now, 2 influential groups of MPs have been taking evidence on the pandemic from people involved in key decisions at the time. Now, in this report, they strongly criticise the early response. Instead of locking down hard and fast, like some other countries, they say ministers, guided by their scientific advisors, made a deliberate decision to introduce social distancing rules gradually until it was clear the NHS could be overwhelmed. The MPs described that as a serious error, which proved fatal to many.
So, in that initial lockdown, we're operating in a fog of uncertainty. But even the government's advisors, Professor Neil Ferguson, in evidence to my committee, said that if we'd locked down a week earlier, we might have even saved half of the number of deaths in that initial wave. So everyone accepts that we locked down too late.
Across the 150 pages of the report, there is more criticism. It describes the rollout of the test and trace programme in England as slow and chaotic. It says the UK did not impose rigorous border controls, letting in high numbers of infections from France and Spain. It criticises the treatment of care homes, saying the risks were not recognised soon enough, leading to devastating and preventable repercussions.
The report has actually picked up things that we were saying from the outset, that social care was an afterthought. The mantra was NHS, we have to keep it safe, and we understood some of that, but what we didn't know was that the discharge out of hospitals was actually not through testing, and they weren't safe discharges.
There was, though, praise for parts of the national response. The vaccine programme was described as one of the most effective initiatives in the history of UK science, and treatments for COVID were also singled out as well. One, dexamethasone, was widely used first in this country and has now saved more than 1 million lives around the world. The government says throughout the pandemic, it has been guided by scientific experts and has not shied away from taking quick action, including on lockdowns. It says it is committed to learning lessons and will hold a full public inquiry in the spring. Jim Reid, BBC News.
And all morning we will be getting reaction to that report. We'll be speaking to a GP, a care home owner, and the chair of the Science and Technology Select Committee, who you saw in that report, Greg Clark. That's live at around 7:30.
A support package for firms struggling with the soaring cost of energy could be announced within days.
Prime Minister is believed to have backed proposals to provide loans worth hundreds of millions of pounds. Our business correspondent Theo Leggett reports.
Forging steel requires a lot of heat, and that consumes a great deal of energy. Small wonder then that steelmakers want the government to help them cope with a steep rise in energy costs. It isn't just steel. Cement manufacturers, chemicals firms, glass makers, and ceramics businesses are also appealing for support. All companies are affected in the same way by rising costs. Some have bought their gas and electricity in advance and are protected from price rises, at least for the time being. Others, though, are not.
For them, this is an incredibly serious predicament, leading some to scale back production or to raise product prices. And of course, the longer this period of high prices continues, the more companies that are impacted and the more severe those impacts are. And then at some point, this starts to threaten their company viability.
The government faces a dilemma. It wants to help viable businesses cope with soaring costs, but it doesn't want to prop up failing companies. Direct subsidies would add to the burden on taxpayers, while a cap on electricity or gas prices would risk simply passing on extra costs to energy companies. But Labour says what businesses are asking for is reasonable.
They felt that a package of support is needed through the winter, but when gas and electricity prices are usually higher, and to get us through this temporary spike in gas and electricity prices, that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for a permanent bailout or a subsidy. What they are looking for is targeted support now, which is what is happening in other European countries.
The Chancellor now does at least have concrete proposals to look at, passed on by the Business Secretary after consultations with industry. But whatever options he chooses, someone, somewhere, is going to have to pay in the end. Theo Leggett, BBC News.
We can speak now to our chief political correspondent, Adam Fleming, who is in Westminster for us this morning. Morning to you, Adam. And now the government haven't all been saying the same thing on this crisis recently, have they? Are we expecting to hear more of a focused line in the next few days?
Morning, Sally. Yeah, I think they're getting their ducks in a row now after that weird situation over the weekend where you had Kwasi Kwarteng, the business secretary, saying he'd been talking to the Treasury about helping industries that use a lot of energy, and then the Treasury saying, no, he hasn't been talking to us at all, which is a bit strange, but now it does look like they're talking to each other, and we understand that the Energy Department has passed a plan to the Treasury for helping these industries like steel, aluminium, glass and ceramics who need help because they use so much energy. And we think the idea will be based around government guarantees for commercial loans to these companies to help tide them over. And that would be kind of consistent with how the government's been acting all throughout this crisis with energy over the last few months. They do not want to bail out or prop up companies who are just having to deal with market forces. The government is prepared to step in and offer a little bit of help to get people through a crisis if a company is viable, but they don't want to be putting taxpayers' money into companies that shouldn't really be existing. And we've seen that with the energy companies, and we're seeing it with these industries as well. Also, just a little reminder, do you remember a few weeks ago we were talking about the shortage of carbon dioxide because the fertilizer plant that makes it was shutting down because it couldn't afford its energy bills? Well, now a deal has been done within the industry itself to keep that plant running until at least January next year. So that's an example of where there was a problem, there was a bit of government intervention, and now it looks like it's been solved. But what we're seeing is week by week by week, these high energy prices affecting different bits of the economy. So you just got to ask what we're going to be talking about next week.
Adam, thanks very much. That's Adam Fleming in Westminster for us.
Elsewhere this morning, the Brexit Minister, Lord Frost, is expected to stress the need for major changes to post-Brexit trading arrangements in Northern Ireland in a major speech to diplomats, which takes place later. This comes after the Irish Foreign Minister accused the UK of undermining EU efforts to resolve problems with the arrangements, known as the Northern Ireland Protocol. Well, Lord Frost says he wants to see the European Court of Justice removed from its oversight role.
Star Trek's William Shatner is about to make history by becoming the oldest person ever to travel to space.
For this, he's of course best known for playing Captain Kirk in the 1960s TV series, and he'll travel on a rocket developed by the Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. Our US correspondent Sophie Long has the story.
Blue Origin is sending a star into space, a nonagenarian science fiction star.
We've delayed 24 hours because of the wind and the enormous concern for our safety, and we welcome that concern.
It's been decades since William Shatner first donned a spacesuit for the original groundbreaking Star Trek series in the 1960s.
I won't underestimate him again.
Now he's about to make history and realise the fantasy he once sang about.
Rocket Man, burning out his fuse out here alone.
His highly anticipated blast-off may be a cunning PR plan, but it's reignited interest in this 21st century space race. Richard Branson was the first billionaire spaceship owner to travel to the edge of the Earth's atmosphere this summer, saying he wanted to inspire the next generation.
To all you kids down there, I was once a child with a dream, looking up to the stars. Now I'm an adult in a spaceship with lots of other wonderful adults looking down to our beautiful, beautiful Earth. To the next generation of dreamers, if we can do this, just imagine what you can do. Hey!
Just over a week later, Amazon and Blue Origin owner Jeff Bezos went further and faster, also saying he was doing it for the kids. They've become the most recognizable faces to float above the Earth's surface. But perhaps currently in first place in this private industry race is Elon Musk, whose company SpaceX has developed a spaceship that successfully ferried astronauts to the International Space Station. It's now working on creating a craft that will take humans to the Moon and Mars. Sophie Long, BBC News, West Texas.
Wow. That
90 years old, Shatner.
Unbelievable. I'm going into space at some point quite soon.
Still looks very good at the 90
Looks
years old.
fantastic, yeah.
I get the feeling I'm going to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, I
We'll be
think
talking about it later as well, I think.
definitely. Now, the latest incarnation of Superman will come out as bisexual in a new comic book.
Jonathan Kent, the son of Clark and Lois Lane, will share a same-sex kiss with his friend in the November issue of the comic. The announcement was made on National Coming Out Day.
When I was offered this job, I thought, well, if we're going to have a new Superman for the DC Universe, right, it feels like a missed opportunity to have another straight white savior. This isn't everything to do with it. There's a reason this is coming in issue 5, not issue 1. We didn't want this to be DC Comics creates new queer Superman. We want this to be Superman finds himself, becomes Superman, and then comes out. And I think there's a really important distinction there.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.
So let's say you have to read an incredibly long email from your boss that you have to finish before the big meeting starts in 10 minutes. Or you're cramming for an exam the night before, but can't bear to keep your eyes open to read more textbook chapter. Or you're reviewing a dense legal document that could change your life forever. Or you're proofreading your thesis one last time before you submit it to make sure there aren't any errors. No matter what you have to read, we could all use a second pair of eyes to help us retain information and put our best foot forward. Enter Speechify, a reading assistant powered by artificial intelligence and deep learning, and designed consciously for students and working professionals who want to get more done. Speechify does the reading for you, so you can spend less energy reading and more energy comprehending. Choose your listening speed. Start
Empty supermarket shelves, gas pumps gone dry. Britain's current shortages remind some stalwart citizens of wartime hardship. A drastic lack of truck drivers has blocked deliveries of gasoline and food. One reason? Post-Brexit cutbacks on visas for foreign labor. Brexiteer Boris Johnson denies Brexit's to blame. At their recent conference, Tories called the current strains a sign of economic revival and vowed to look beyond Europe for new friends. Topic today, Boris Brexit boomerang. Is the UK spiraling into chaos? Hello and welcome to The Point. It's a pleasure to welcome our guests. Wendelin van Bredow is the Berlin-based correspondent for the British weekly The Economist, and she says Boris Johnson famously wrote 2 newspaper columns arguing for and against Brexit just before the referendum. He must deeply regret sending the wrong one. It's also a pleasure to welcome John Worth. He's a British freelance journalist and blogger. His opinion, Brexit didn't cause the problems the UK is currently facing, but it has removed many of the means Britain had to solve those problems. And I'm very glad to have my colleague Simon Young, a political correspondent for Deutsche Welle, on the show. He says, Boris Johnson says the problem actually shows the UK economy is strong, but many Britons doubt he has a plan to deal with the problems. Wendelin, you say the Prime Minister has cause to regret his post-Brexit, pro-Brexit enthusiasm. Is public opinion turning against Brexit? What are you seeing in the polls?
No, not yet. I mean, not the people who supported Brexit in the first place. But I feel we are seeing a sort of parallel world. If you look at the pictures from the Tory party conference, you know, they were dancing the night away and there's a very good upbeat mood. But then if you look at the rest of the country, you know, the empty shelves, the queues at the petrol station, people are upset and people are angry. But in general, public opinion is he's still very popular, the Prime Minister. So it's not turning yet.
Although, John, in fact, there is one poll that's just come out from YouGov showing a slim majority, 53% of those polled, saying that, in fact, they now see more downside for Brexit than upside. You say that Brexit didn't cause the problems the UK is facing. So would you say people are drawing the wrong conclusions if they say this is the downside?
If you unpick that a little bit, essentially the British are saying, hang on a minute, maybe Brexit itself is not the problem. Perhaps it's the way that Boris Johnson is doing it. Right now, I would say that there was probably no good Brexit to be had, but theoretically, maybe a Brexit that was not quite as damaging as this one would have been possible. What you have to bear in mind is that the shortages of labour in the British labour market, they have not just suddenly come about in the last 6 months. Britain has not been training enough truck drivers, enough doctors, enough nurses for 2 decades now. And the UK could plug the gaps in its labour market with labour from other European countries. Now, out of the European Union, it can no longer do that. But these problems predate Brexit by quite some years. It's just we're seeing the consequences now. And so, of course, the fact that Britain is hit harder than other European countries, of course, is then in the public debate somewhat connected to Brexit.
So, Simon, your opening statement said that people question whether the Prime Minister has a plan, but in fact, he gave a rousing speech at this week's Tory party conference, saying that the fuel shortages are proof that...
Right, and ladies and gents, we're going to move on with the show. It's Proclamation News and Gatherence. Thank you for the ones that are still in my cast box as well. It's running a bit slow on cast box today. I'm not sure what's going on, but never mind. I'm overwhelmed to still be here and share Thursday afternoon with you. Quensberg, bow and arrow suspect known to Norwegian police. Listen to this. Narrow could be seen sticking at a wall after the attack. A man arrested over a deadly bow and arrow attack in Norway had converted to Islam, and there were fears he had been radicalized, police have said. A 37-year-old Danish citizen is accused of killing 4 women and a man. on Wednesday night in the southern town of Coensberg. He was arrested and questioned for several hours overnight. Regional Police Chief Ollie Breedroff, the Savoyard, said officers have last been in touch with a man in 220. The victims were all aged between 50 and 70. Chief Savoyard told reporters on Thursday morning, "We're investigating, among other things, to determine whether this was a terrorist attack." Police had initially confronted the man 6 minutes after the attack began at 16:12 GMT on Wednesday, but he shot several arrows at the officers and escaped. He was caught at 6:47, 35 minutes after the attack started. The police chief said all 5 victims were most likely killed after officers first encountered him. Police fired warning shots when the man was eventually arrested, but it is not clear if his officers were armed when they were first came across the suspect. Norwegian police do not usually carry guns on them. Weapons are stored at police stations or in their patrol cars. The Norway country profile. The attack was Norway's deadliest since far-right extremist Anders Behring Breivik murdered 177 people, most of them teenagers, on the island of Utøya in July 2011. I don't know if any of you have seen that film. I see that film. I can't remember the name of it, but it's disgusting. People ran for their lives. The attacker allegedly launched the assault inside the Co-op Extra supermarket on Coensberg West Side. One of those injured was an off-duty police officer who was in a shop at the time. The officer and another person who was wounded after recovering in hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. One witness told local outlet TV2 she had heard a commotion and saw a woman taking cover. Then a man standing on the corner with arrows and a quiver on his shoulder and a bow in his hand. Afterwards, I saw people running for their lives. One of them was a woman holding a child by their hand, she said. Police have told the Norwegian news agency NTB that the attacker also used other weapons during the incident. Without giving more details, the suspect moved over a large area and authorities cordoned off several parts of the town. Residents were ordered to stay indoors so authorities could examine the scene and gathered evidence. Surrounding gardens and garages were searched with the help of sniff dogs. The atmosphere here has darkened. Coensberg Mayor Karianne Sand said it was a shocking attack in the area where many people lived, and that as a crisis team would help anyone affected, describing the town as a completely ordinary community with completely ordinary people. Mr. Sand and everyone had been deeply shaken by this very tragic situation. British woman Fiona Herland, who has lived in Coensberg for 5 years, described the town as a very warm, cosy place. Nothing happens here. This is absolutely devastating. You can feel the atmosphere here has darkened, she told BBC News. It is have you seen that film when all them students get killed? It's really bad, really bad. Them guys, I don't know if those ex-army blokes that, but the police could not find them. Police could not find them on the film. It's only obviously the film, but it's supposed to be based on a true story. If it's like exactly like that or not, I'm guessing the sort of surroundings was they're running towards the sea to escape or to find help. The suspect was taken to police station town in Drammen, where his defence lawyer Frederick Newman said he was questioned for more than 3 hours and was cooperating with authorities. The suspect had a Danish mother and Norwegian father, he said. Police prosecutor Anne Irene Van Matheson told TV2 the man had lived in Coensberg for several years. The attack came on the final day of the Prime Minister's Erna Solberg Conservative government on Thursday morning. Labour leader Jonas Gahr Store become Norway's Prime Minister in the centre-left coalition. Mr. Store said it was a gruesome and brutal attack. Bows and arrows are not classed as legal weapons in Norway. Buying them and owning them is permitted. And owners are not required to register them, although they must be used at designated archery ranges. After the attack, police officers nationwide were ordered to carry firearms as an extra precaution, but there is no indication so far that it is a change in national threat. The dictatorate said in a statement in Norwegian. See, when something happens, they're not sure if it's going to be a message around the world for terrorists to go and attack. That's why they say an international threat. Are you in the area? If it is safe to do so, share your experience by emailing haveyourSay@bbc.uk. Please include your contact number if you're willing to speak to a BBC journalist. /65803, or you can tweet at BBC. Cluadia Webbe MP threatening and harassing women. Cluadia Webbe was found of using a misogynistic insult and threatening women with acid. An MP had made a threatening phone call to a woman because she was jealous of her friendship with her partner and has been found guilty of harassing her. Cluadia Webbe, 56, of Labour MP of Leicester East, who is now independent, was found guilty of one charge of harassment. Westminster Magistrates Court heard she had several calls over 2 years and threatened the woman with acid. If you looked at the woman, you'd think she's innocent as you like. After the verdict, Webbe said she was deeply shocked and would appeal. Prosecution said Webbe of Islington, North London, made 16 calls to 59-year-old Michelle Merritt, a friend of her partner Lester Thomas, between September 2018 and April last year. The court heard on occasion she made an angry call, used a derogatory term, and added, "You should be acid." Another, she threatened to send naked photos and videos of Miss Merritt to her family and made silent calls from withheld number. The hearing was told. "I'm the victim." During cross-examination on Wednesday, Webbe, who was suspended by Labour Party, said she had never met Miss Merritt and there was no reason for any falling out. She claimed a recorded phone call on 25th April, which Webbe heard her saying, "Get out of my relationship" 11 times, was taken out of context. Webbe said it had begun during a heated argument with Mr. Thomas over breaching the COVID-19 lockdown with Miss Merritt. "I simply called her and asked her not to break lockdown with Leicester," she said. "She was breaking the rules and I was not pointing it out. I'm the victim." Webbe's claimed she was a victim of domestic abuse and coercive control and was being goaded and gaslighted during the row, which resulted in police being called after a neighbour reported her screams. She confirmed she was still in a relationship with Mr. Thomas and they were engaged. Webbe told the court she's still with her partner, Lester Thomas. Webbe previously said, "I've spent my lifetime campaigning for the rights for women for changing this type of behaviour, and this is not something that is my character and not something I would ever do." Paul Hines, QC, represented Webbe, breached out of character references for former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, former Shadow Secretary Diane Abbott. Miss Abbott said the defendant was very committed to working to support women, describing a warm, empathetic manner, and added, "I regard as a very honest woman." While Mr. Corbyn said she was very committed to ensuring the administration of justice is done and prepared to state uncomfortable truths when it matters. I feel sorry for Mrs. Webbe here. I'm not a Labour supporter, but I will strongly say I feel sorry for Miss Webbe. However, District Judge Paul Goldspring said it found Webbe untruthful in her evidence. "Some of the things she said, I believe, were made up on the spur of the moment," he said. "Some things said in the witness box just don't bear scrutiny. In short, I find Miss Webbe to be vague, incoherent, and at times illogical." He released Webbe on unconditional bail, but warned her that she could face prison when she is sentenced on the 4th November. Threatened to throw acid at someone and send intimate photos to family members across the custody threshold, he added. Nuisance behaviour. She can't get in prison for that. Some of the things that people don't get in prison for, and they're going to put her in prison for threats that didn't really happen. Harassment, she's not going to get in prison. Nuisance behaviour. After the verdict, Webbe said, "I am innocent and will appeal this verdict. As I said in the court and repeat now, I've never threatened violence, nor have I harassed anyone. Her lawyer, Raj Chadha, added, the recording of the call Miss Webb made has been taken out of context. We are sure that Miss Webb will be vindicated at the appeal. Lisa White from Crown Prosecution Service, CPS, said Webb's persistent nuisance behaviour caused considerable distress and alarm to her victim and become generally concerned for her safety. No one should have to endure this sort of harassment, she added. The Labour called on Webb to step down after the verdict. The spokesman added, the Labour Party strongly condemns Cluadia Webb's actions and should now resign. I think it's been a bit dramatic, if I'm totally honest. It's been a lot worse, and people got away with a lot less. So I'm not buying that. I will stick up for Miss Webb on this accusation. Absolutely. So we can give out this one. We're going to have a short break, and we're going to get back to it. BBC hunting the Essex lorry killers. Drivers stood there as 49 people lay dead in his lorry. 49 people found dead in lorry at Waterglade Industrial Estate in Grays, Essex. When police discovered the bodies of 39 migrants in a lorry almost 2 years ago, Essex was thrust into international spotlight. A 999 call from a quiet and calm lorry driver led police officers straight to the scene of a mass grave in the Waterglade Industrial Estate in Essex on October 23, 2019. Grandma gets attacked when what she did next to the attackers running scared. The 31 men and 8 women, including a 15-year-old child, had all suffocated in sweltering temperatures in the lorry's sealed container as it was shipped from Zeebrugge to Purfleet in Essex. They were all originally from Vietnam. Since that discovery, thousands of people have worked tirelessly on Essex Police's large investigation of the forced history to bring members of the huge international smuggling operation responsible for deaths to justice. The people were jailed at the beginning of the year between 13 to 27 years. Now BBC documentary Hunting the Essex Lorry Killers has shared new details on the case, how Essex Police and other forces managed to crack it. It airs tonight, October the 13th on BBC Two at 9 p.m. Here are 3 key new features of the case that people can expect to see. Is it bad? I mean, these people are trying to scare us for their life into our country. When Reece Robinson, a 26-year-old lorry driver from Northern Ireland, made 999 calls to the ambulance service on the fateful morning for the opening of the trailer and finding the bodies. Speaking in a calm, collected manner, Robinson told the emergency call handler, I'm a lorry driver and I've just filled the trailer from a port. There's immigrants in the back, but they are lying on the ground. When asked how many patients there are, he said, I don't know, 25. The call handler asked 25 patients not breathing, and he responded, yeah. When first responders arrived at the lorry, they were greeted by a horrific sight of Vietnamese nationals motionless on the floor of the container. Due to the number of people inside the refrigerated container, the oxygen had sucked out with no ventilation. The air became toxic and temperatures rose up 38 degrees. All inside had suffocated death. The victims had hoped for a better life in Britain when they agreed to pay up to $13,000 a head for VIP smuggling service. But according to the first responders, the deaths of the migrants didn't seem to faze Robinson. Speaking in a documentary, one first responder, the whole container was full of bodies from back to front. The driver just stood there, didn't say a word. He didn't look stressed or flustered. It was 3 or 4 seconds of trying to process what you're seeing. There's just silence. No one wants to say anything. When interviewed, Robinson initially claimed he had unknowingly been transporting human cargo. In reality, he was part of the luxury people smuggling ring, headed up from criminal kingpin Ronan Hughes. Detective Chief Inspector Daniel Stolen, who headed up to the investigation by Essex Police, described how fingerprint found in another of Hughes' lorries was gold dust. Fingerprint led to another man who had made the same journey at the 39 week before, who is referred to as Witness X in a documentary. The migrant immediately feared for his safety, referring to the smugglers as the mafia, also fearing they would harm his family. But he still agreed to cooperate with the police. He provided a first-hand account of how he was smuggled into the UK in a lorry owned by llYODS, which proved crucial to the case's success. His testimony showed the drivers had known about their human cargo and provided a description of drop-off point. This then saw the CCTV footage uncovered. That placed primary suspects together at the same hotel. In the documentary, the police described Witness X and the voice of the victims, as the other evidence could provide this, and prior to the discovery, it was only ever speculation as they perished. With the crucial testimony in hand, Essex police were able to extradite Rowan Hughes back to the UK as previously fled into Ireland. Police in Northern Ireland had already been investigating Hughes in connection to a trafficking of Class A drugs and began to close in on him before Witness X was found. However, at this point, Hughes was one step ahead of the police. DCI Ricky Thornton of the Police Service of Northern Ireland said the lorry used to drive the migrants had been sold to Hughes in the months and before the deaths. Proclamation news and Gatherence, ladies and gents. Thank you all for coming in. It's a bit of a short show today, but we've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed you. I hope you enjoyed me. Make sure you subscribe to PNG. Lloyds Bank accidentally declared customers dead and closed his account. All John Hill's bills and direct debits were cancelled due to a mistake, and he couldn't access his cash for a week. Lloyd's account holder was wrongly declared dead by the High Street Bank after data from the death notification service was misled, resulting in the customer having his account closed and his direct debits cancelled. John Hill made his recovery after receiving emails for his utility providers, reports money saving expert. Lloyd said it unblocked the account as soon as it was notified of the error, but Mr. Hill said the account remained largely inaccessible for more than 1 week. The bank apologised and said the closure was not a result of the mix-up, and after receiving notification of the passing of John Hill, and offered him £525 in compensation. Chris Newland's news and investigation editor at MoneySavingsExpert.com said the death notification service is there to help loved ones report someone's passed on several banks, building societies and other financial firms via just one free online form. And no rare, this is one whooping case of mistaken identity. Whatever the circumstance, if you feel you have not received good customer service from your bank in their response to a complaint, then your best option is to contact the Financial Ombudsman Service, FOS, which can help settle disputes between financial firms and their customers. Mr. Hill from Devon told the MSC, I immediately rang the bank, but the automated system put my number through to a bereavement team. It is that I learned Lloyds had been contacted by a company called Fraser and Fraser, which turns out are a company of genealogists, and a probate researcher. Fraser and Fraser informed Lloyds about the supposed death of someone with a familiar name to his. He says he'll wait a week for the internet banking access codes, as well as having to get a new debit card. He said, I was unable to access my new cash for a week. Mr. Hill said he had manually recreate some of his direct debits that had been stopped. A spokesman from the bank said, initially, when we received the notification of the passing of John Hill through a death notification service, a colleague reviewed the details so they can match the information against any associated accounts in this case. It's clear our colleague did not check the records through enough, placing markers on the account of our customers incorrectly. Do you know what? It's another Justin Johnson with exactly the same day of birth for me. So if either me or him pass away, we might get exactly the same thing. He lives in the southwest of England. I live in the southeast. And his date of birth is exactly the same as mine. How ironic. And his name's Justin Johnson. How ironic is that? A spokesperson for Fraser and Fraser said, since the death notification service commenced in 2018, we have placed thousands of notifications, and we are aware of only 2 instances of mistaken identification on this one. I believe the system was used to make more than 174,541 notifications to banks in 2020. CMSC's Financial Ombudsman Guide for more on how to make a complaint. However, if you have recently lost a loved one and need some guidance on steps to take, visit MSC's What Do You Do When Someone Dies guide. I just want to, There's another Justin Johnson in the world. Exactly the same date of birth, same day, same month, same year. He's racked up a quite big debt. It's all my name, same name as him. I rang this debt up. He said, "Have you got a car on finance?" About a year ago. I said, "No, I've been in a car for about 3 years now." He said, "Yeah, £7,000." I said, "That wasn't me." I said, "It came to me either one of my exes that hate me that much, or someone else. Someone's got all my details, fraud." And I was arguing. I said, "Give me the number. I'll bring it up." So I rang this number up. I said, "Hello, who's that?" He goes, "Justin." I said, "Justin who?" "Justin Johnson." I said, "What's your date of birth, mate?" I thought he was winding me up. He told me the exact same date of birth for me. How ironic is that? It is ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. Anyway, ladies and gents, it's Proclamation News and Gatherence. It's the prodigious, the prominent professor at PNG. Make sure you subscribe, share, one love. Take care. God bless. Make sure you subscribe. Don't miss the next show. Speak soon. Where is the shut off point? I don't know how to shut this one off. Oh, that's why. That's why. Should have been.